awesome. It was just very awesome and very moving, you know, and I got an opportunity to finally just go back and see 30 years later, you know, where this place was. You know, I always knew, you know, but never just taking the time and understanding. And, you know, I just wanted to share that with you. Have you been to Daley Plaza?
No, but I've studied so much. I have the whole plaza, you know, in my mind as if I created it.
Well, if you get an opportunity next November, this coming November, go, you know, because I think they have this every year, you know, where the people for the truth meet and have their own little service. And if you get an opportunity, please go. I mean, it's one thing to see it in the books and what have you, but to actually be on the ground, you know, and look around and see these places that have gone down in history, it's overwhelming. It's very overwhelming. But let's talk about frame 313. And is a piece of this Magruder film, is it missing? Have you?
That's what I read, but it doesn't matter. They put it back together real well.
Okay.
Frame 312 is Kennedy's leaning forward and Jackie's looking at him at his face.
Okay.
He's choking. Frame 313, he's going backwards.
All right.
Which means in order for, and it's not just his head snapping backwards, which they tell you, his whole body is being driven backwards.
Yeah, you see that.
And keeps going backwards until he hits the back seat. That's the only thing that stops him from going backwards. Then he bounces off the back seats and lands on the floor. The shot hit him in the right temple. Took off the back of his head. The back of his head landed on the back of the limousine, and that is what Jackie was reaching for. She's not trying to get out of the limousine.
Okay.
This is according to Clint Hill, the Secret Service agent who ran up and almost saved Kennedy.
Right. Okay.
On the back of the car. So that's what she was grabbing onto. She knew instinctively you can't live without it. But
that's
she
awful.
didn't bring her sewing kit, you know?
Yeah, that is just awful. Just awful. And but you can definitely see, you know, the force pushing him back.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, how can anybody say anything different than that, you know?
Isn't that enough to convict the guys right there?
Tell me about it. Tell me about it, you know? Like I said, even at a young age, not knowing, you know, as much as I know now in detail of what had gone on, and reading and you know, the stories and the reports that I've seen and talking to people like yourself, I knew something in my soul. Something wasn't right. And then when they knocked off his brother, Robert, and then Malcolm King, you know, Martin Luther King, you know, which that day is coming up very soon, the 17th of this month, his birthday. You know, something's not right here. Something's not right, you know, and I understand that you were saying that they had to get Robert because Robert knew, you know, pretty much if he had gotten office that he possibly would have opened up these files.
Well, here's the chronology. Richard Helms is promoted in '62 to Deputy Director for Plans. Now he's running the agency. Him and a guy named William Harvey are keeping all the secrets from the director of the Central Intelligence Agency. This is according to John McCone in his testimony in '75.
Okay.
Then Richard Helms orchestrates the entire assassination. But then between 64 and 67, and especially in 66, you got a lot of citizens who are dying. Suicides, traffic accidents, murders that are unsolved. But I know these citizens. I've read their testimony, so I know what they said. And there's an acceleration in the deaths of American citizens in Daley Plaza and who had contact with Oswald. But it's in '66 when Richard Helms is promoted to director of the Central Intelligence Agency. My analysis is he's cleaning up all the loose ends.
Okay.
And he's doing a good job of it because by '67, all those witnesses are, you know, a lot of those witnesses are dead.
Dead, yeah.
Now '68 comes around. Bobby's running for president. Now, one of the reasons he's running, he wants to find out who killed his brother.
And still try to right the wrongs.
Yes. But see, Richard Helms can't afford to let Robert Kennedy become president. If he does, Richard Helms is going to prison. So Richard Helms has to kill Bobby, and he does so. And my analysis is they're using a brainwashing program called Project MK Ultra.
Okay.
Back in '54, Richard Helms proposed this new program to program assassins through hypnosis and drugs.
I believe it.
And they worked on it for 15 years.
And
it's his baby. I think that's what they use on Sirhan, because Sirhan doesn't remember how he got to the hotel.
Right.
He doesn't remember shooting Robert Kennedy. Now, if you're going to do premeditated murder and you're thinking about killing someone for 2 months, how can you not remember doing it when you finally do it?
Interesting. I believe it. Did you ever see this movie, The Manchurian Candidate?
Yes.
Okay.
Boy. It was like someone took a copy out of Richard Helms' study there.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. So the witnesses basically were killed after their testimony had been gotten.
Things are too hot in 64.
Okay.
But a few people start dying in 64, but they accelerate in 66 because 2 years has gone by. Everyone knows Lee Oswald acted alone, killed the president. Richard Helms is promoted to director of Central Intelligence. He thinks he's gotten away with it clean. But the guy's very thorough, and he's kind of brilliant in an evil way. And that's when you see that acceleration, because who's going to touch Helms now?
Interesting.
He's no longer just deputy director for plans, which is covert operations. He's running the agency.
So where does George Bush fit in there? Did he come after this Richard Helms?
It depends. Officially, he starts to run for politics in 64. He's a businessman. Officially, he's given the job as director of CIA in 75 when there's so much turmoil going on because the Senate is investigating the CIA, finding about their own assassination team that they had formed. The plots to kill Castro, that they did kill Trujillo. They murdered a guy named Lumumba in Africa, right as Kennedy's taking the oath of office. This is all Central Intelligence. Once again, Richard Helms. He's the head of the covert plans in 62, so it's Helms all the time.
Just amazing. Amazing, just amazing of how far people will go to keep that lie going, keep that lie, and cover up them butts, that's kind of wavering there in the end, in the air. Let's talk about the magic bullet theory and how preposterous this is, for it to be just kind of laying there on the stretcher, pretty much in good condition,
Great condition.
Yeah.
The problem is they have 3 bullet shells in the sniper's nest. You can only fire that rifle 3 times in 6 seconds, and most people heard 3 shots. One shot, about 5 seconds later, the second and third shots coming on the heels of each other, which means you can't really shoot that fast with a bolt-action rifle. That's another parameter there. So if one bullet misses the car, one bullet blows off Kennedy's head, then what about the wound in the neck, and what about all of Governor Connolly's wounds?
Right.
Only one bullet can do all of Governor Connolly's wounds. So they happen to find a bullet on the stretcher. They test it ballistically. It matches Oswald's Italian Mannlicher Carcano. The problem is the Warren Commission wants to know if this bullet can go through 2 men and cause extensive damage to Connolly. So they asked Helms, who did the autopsy on Kennedy, and he said, no, it couldn't have gone through either man. He pointed out there's 10 centimeters of Connolly's right fifth rib just tore away, that the bullet would have been demolished. So they asked Robert Shaw, who did the operation on Connolly and saved his life. He says, no, there'd be more deformation of the bullet. And he told them that he picked up more bullet fragments out of Governor Connolly's wrist that are missing from the bullet. See, if I shoot you and the bullet hits you, and there's fragments in you, well, the fragments have to be missing from the bullet.
Right. I mean, that's common sense.
Well, this bullet, so they asked Robert Frazier, the FBI firearms expert, and he says, no, it couldn't have gone through either man. He said that when the bullet was found, there's no blood on it. He said that it weighed 158 grains, and a whole bullet is 161 grains, so it barely lost any substance. But now they've got to prove that this bullet went through 2 men. They set up Army tests. The Army does some tests. They shoot from Oswald's Mannlicher Carcano the same type of ammunition into a cadaver. They shoot the bullets into a wrist of the cadaver and into a goat. They retrieve the bullets, and of course the bullets are demolished. Which means that bullet has to be a plant. Which means that the rifle is also a plant because they give cross evidence of being plants.
Interesting.
And the whole thing should have collapsed right there. If you really wanted to get the guys who killed Kennedy.
But perpetuate that lie. Amazing, just amazing. And I was really kind of disappointed when Connolly died, and they wanted to, I guess, do an autopsy and to find the scrap, that bullet that was still in his body. And somehow, I guess he put it in his family said no. He had put it in his will or whatever that no, he didn't want this to happen, because he could have, opened up some doors right then and there, if they had done the autopsy. But, it just kind of speaks for itself because this bullet looks pretty brand new to me. Nothing's missing much that I can see. Also, like I say, I'm inviting you guys down if you have nothing else to do this Saturday, which is January the 15th. Had to look at the calendar. And we're going to be taping a show at the United Artists cable public access station down there in Van Nuys. And if you'd like to participate in the audience and have some questions of your own, we'd love to see you. So please, if you're going to come Saturday, please come by no later than 3:30. And so we can start taping this right away with Michael Calder and myself, and we will continue this discussion about all these lies that have been perpetuated time and time again over the Kennedy assassination. So I understand that you are familiar with Posner.
Oh,
Yeah. Our case closed guy, And for those of you out there that may not know who we're talking about Gerald Posner, and he's the author of Case Closed, Lee Harvey Oswald, the assassination of JFK. And during the month of November, they act like nobody else wrote a book about the Kennedy case. This guy was propped up. You saw him on every network, and I do not believe a thing that this man says, and I see you have a theory about Mr. Posner. You want to share it with us?
Well, I've read his book.
Okay.
I know what's in the volume, so he can't fool me. Mm-hmm. I don't think he fools too many people. It's kind of overkill. Mm-hmm. I know what he's leaving out. I know what he's distorting. Mm-hmm. But you have to purposely distort this stuff to distort it, and he's distorting it. There's so much information that you would really have to read those 26 volumes to know about.
I bet.
Which means an expert really did write the book.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if Posner even wrote the book. Mm-hmm. For the simple fact of this, if you read those volumes, the very least that you know, whether you think it's the Cubans, the Mafia, the KGB, CIA, the military, whoever you think did it, the one thing you do know...
that it was a conspiracy.
And... that he's in a crossfire.
Okay.
Now, he doesn't even allow for Kennedy being in a crossfire. So he's being duplicitous. He must know that he's in a crossfire, but...
he don't want to face the true facts.
No, so what I'm wondering if he's not just part of CIA's black propaganda.
Yeah, that's what I felt.
Turn out the propaganda machine.
And you could see it in the works because they didn't interview anybody else but this guy. When they disputed... he goes along with the program of the Warren Commission. Let's have some interviews with people that don't believe that garbage, that can think for themselves and have investigated, guys like yourself, James D. Eugenio, it's been Jim Garrison. Unfortunately, he's passed, but let's talk to some of these people that have a different perspective on the evidence that supposedly was there. That's what I wanted to see. And that's what I was very disappointed about.
You can weigh guys like that down with the facts. Just start talking facts. You don't even have to make any conclusions. Like we were discussing the rifle scope.
Okay.
The rifle scope was improperly mounted. The 3 FBI agents took the rifle out a week after the assassination. They can't hit a target 15 yards away. Nor can they hit it 30 yards away. And at 100 yards, they're hitting 5 inches above and 5 inches to the right. They ordered another Italian man, like Carcano, from the same Chicago firm. They checked the rifle scope. It's off to the same degree as Oswald's. Now, how do you hit something if the scope doesn't work?
Yeah, in a distance.
Yeah, so I could just throw that at Posner and let's see what he does with that.
Oh, boy, I tell you, he tries to be such a smooth operator. When are you writing your book?
Well...
or have you already started?
Yeah. When I turned in the thesis, because it was on the social, political, and economic reasons why he was killed.
Okay.
No one has ever come up for motive.
Okay.
That was the whole thesis.
Okay.
The professor said, you got to write a book. I was hesitant about it. But finally, a couple years ago, I did write a manuscript based on the thesis. And New York's taking a look at it right now. Good. I wish you all the luck. I love people like yourselves that's out there trying to get the truth out. How can we go forward? And how can we, and I always talk about this, how can we tell our young people and our children to tell the truth, to stand up for the good in the whole bit of what America's supposed to be or life supposed to be when we